All right, folks, we're back. And yes, there's a lot of AI anxiety suddenly in the world. Microsoft is now reportedly going to fire a bunch of salespeople and replace them with AI. The CEO of Amazon put out a memo saying that the company will definitely be smaller in the age of AI. And every time you turn around lately, John, somebody's laying somebody off and blaming it on AI. And you have a story talking about the anxiety that the average person is feeling up on techstrong.ai, where seems like we're evenly split as to whether or not we're afraid of AI or we think AI might be a good thing. So,
Right. Yeah. There was a national poll that NBC News put out Wednesday, and they were asking a bunch of questions, but two of the questions that stuck out that were tech related were AI related questions. And what they found was this profound split in the way Americans look at AI. Either they are embracing it or they are not touching it at all. And I think what is in play, and I think what's been in play, not just with this poll, but just in general, is this familiarity. So people are much more familiar with this new technology than they have been with previous waves. And I think it breeds equal amounts of fear and fascination. Um, like the companies these people work for, they have strong feelings and attitudes about AI, and the more they find out about it, the more anxious they become. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, we see this at the corporate level now. We're seeing it at the rank and file level, and what I think is eventually going to happen is people are going to learn to live with it. They're going to learn it's not as scary as they think it is. Like previous waves of technology, there's always this fear of change, especially among older people like me. But once somebody is exposed to it, then they become huge proponents of it. So I think maybe that's how it plays out. But the other thing that's going on is that we've got we've got a lot of attention, as Mike points out, to tech companies that are looking to be more productive and looking for more productivity. So they're going to get rid of their employees. We're seeing it among media companies like Business Insider. Even the New York Times is using AI much more thoroughly than we previously knew, according to the Washington Post. We're moving in that direction. And again, change foments fear. And I think it's just going to accelerate like everything has with AI. There's a book that just came out called Empire of AI. It's basically about Sam Altman and OpenAI. It's written by a former Wall Street Journal reporter who now works, I believe, at the Atlantic. It's a really interesting read. It got a lot of attention. And basically, this is something I want to throw out to y'all. The author's point is that these AI companies, the dominant ones, are going to be the new empires, and they're going to be very similar to old empires. They're going to chew up a lot of resources. They're going to affect profoundly the working force, and they're going to profoundly change our societal norms across so many gamuts, good and bad. So again, this is an understandable reaction to something that is going to, if not rule our lives, have a huge influence on our lives and everything we do.
Lisa, I think there's something wrong in the tone of these things and these announcements. And part of the thing about AI was it will make people more efficient and will be freed up to go do more things that have interesting value. And that's all goodness on the face of it. And yet, it seems like, every time you turn around now, somebody's talking about laying people off because of AI. So, what are they, it doesn't seem like they're actually doing the uplift part as much as they're just focusing on reducing costs and bottom line, pushing this through the bottom line rather than thinking about the top line.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike, on that. When Andy Jassy came out the other day, CEO of Amazon, and said that there will be less jobs in the age of AI, I thought, the message that came out just a few months ago from the World Economic Forum, State of Jobs report for 2025, talked about and I'm not going to remember the actual numbers and millions, but I think the net loss plus net gain of jobs in the next 5 years was projected to be 78 million new jobs created. And that narrative isn't getting out there. I think Amazon from your point on tone, Mike, I think they could have done a better job of that. I've always been glass half full when it comes to AI. I get to see a lot of the positives that it does, but also when I do iHeartRadio, I get to talk to the consumer audience. There's a lot of fear out there. So this poll did not surprise me at all. For example, it varies by industry. I've got family members that are in the entertainment industry and they're trying to break into Hollywood and they're terrified of AI. Obviously, there were huge issues and strikes and things in the last couple of years because of that. But I think the messaging needs to be clear on, let's identify where the cons are and the negatives and what types of jobs are already being replaced versus what the opportunities are that it's going to give to job seekers, regardless of industry. I think that message is just not clear. And to John, to your point, and to the poll's point, people are either all in on AI or completely against it. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground yet. I don't know if we're going to get there anytime soon, but but then I talk to people in different age groups, like my mom's best friend who's almost 80, who is a huge fan of ChatGPT, uses it for inspiration on different things that she does in her life. And I thought that was a really cool example of somebody that in a different generation that could be scared of it, retired, so not worried about it taking over jobs, but sees some value in what it can deliver for her life.
The one word you used, Lisa, that really stood out to me, and it's perfect word, is messaging. The messaging's been so bad from the tech industry. As Mike mentioned, it's Amazon, it's Microsoft, I think Meta has made it clear that people are going to be replaced by AI. I mean, it just throughout the industry, there's this almost gleeful anticipation of what AI can do in place of human beings. And I don't think that is the intent, but that is the takeaway that we're getting from a lot of these companies. Even Anthropic, of course, they're going to build up the fear as they try to raise money. But Dario, it's the CEO there, has talked famously about losing half the white collar jobs because of AI related technology within 5 years. So they got to do a better job. And as long as we keep hearing NVIDIA and Salesforce and ServiceNow and everyone else talking about these digital workforces as if humans are just a small part of the equation, we're going to keep getting this reaction.
I think the other part of it too is that it's in an environment of constant opinionating about sort of the dystopian part of AI, and I don't mean in a true sci-fi sense, but just every job's going away, all these knowledge workers are going away, or the entry levels are going away, or whatever statements are made, and it's by not by one person, it's by a lot of people, including leaders, company leaders as well. And I think what the problem with those statements is, while some of that may be true, it doesn't help just to say, hey, all this kind of jobs are going away. Paralegals are going away. So what should people do? What do people do to prepare them? So that's the other part of the conversation we have to have is, okay, so you know what? We may not have paralegals as we know it, or pick your job. Maybe we'll still have plumbers, right? But we may not have paralegals. So what does the legal profession look like, and how do you prepare yourself to evolve and grow and shift and maybe make some substantial change if your kind of role does change or is eliminated, but new things come about?
That's so one of the frustrating things I encounter when I talk to these companies, especially the tech companies, about AI and its impact on jobs. They will say to me invariably, well, it's going to create new types of industries. It's not going to just eliminate type X job, but it will bring in type Y. And I'll say, well, give me an example. Give me a specific example in the vertical market, say the legal profession, and how that might play out. And I get nothing but vague responses. Because I said, and in fairness to the people who are not answering, maybe they don't know, or they think it will evolve organically within the job or within the industries.
Certainly. I mean, I believe, John, that there will be jobs in companies we can't imagine. I mean, there will be things created that are now possible that will be created out of the opportunity, but other things will be, I don't know if I would say evolutionary. It's kind of evolutionary and revolutionary at the same time. In my world, I think about the software development environment and, developers moving from coders to more orchestrators and communicators and using tools that more look like something like a StarCraft resource management, game than it is a line of code editor. And same thing for developers or maybe workflow engineers, whatever it might be. But I think that's what you have to kind of paint for people is this is the skills that are transforming when you have those AI capabilities. So first of all, invest in AI, your own skills of using AI, because you probably won't make the transition without having some of those to begin with.
And if we could, oh, sorry. If we go back to the messaging for a second, what's ironic to me is that I get to talk to CMOs regularly. And we're talking CMOs of CrowdStrike, Dynatrace, Snowflake, Infinidat, Trellix, you name it. All of them leaning heavily into Gen AI and agentic AI. They're seeing a lot of value. They're already seeing ROI. So the fact that the messaging is inconsistent is just ironic to me that the CEOs like an Andy Jassy would phrase what he said in the way that he said it. Just Wednesday of this week on the Today Show, they were talking about AI. And I was actually, so I tuned in. I was very curious as to what they were going to say about it. Were they going to be negative? Were they going to be neutral or positive? And it ended up being fairly neutral, I would say, which I thought was a good thing in terms of identifying there are going to be jobs that will be replaced, but there's also going to be a lot of opportunities and jobs that we can't even imagine yet. And that message, that tonality is just not out there consistently. And I struggle with that because I see it.
My bullshit meter's off the chart on all this. And here's where it is. All these companies hired immense numbers of people over the years. And so part of this, I think, is them saying, well, we're going to shrink the workforce, juice the stock, and we're going to attribute it to AI. But I don't think that they're anywhere nearly as far along with AI as they think. And maybe they're anticipating some capabilities.
That's 100% correct, Mike. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, so here's where we are. Today, AI is not necessarily replacing jobs. AI is augmenting people, right? It's not replacing them. That's not to say it won't replace them at some point in the future, and maybe sooner than we think. But for Microsoft, who's already done one round of layoffs based on AI and is announcing or expecting to do another pretty big round based on AI now, saying that AI is replacing those people, that's covering up for some drunken hiring spree during COVID, right?
Yes. They are all bloated and they overhired.
Yep.
Yes. And they're still cutting that.
Yep. Now, secondly, though, we did a story earlier this week where New York State is now tracking how many jobs are lost to AI. And California is going to take another crack at regulating AI. And, everyone is going to try to put this genie back in the bottle and try to figure, how to control it. That train's left the station, right? It's out of the box. AI is going to do it. I said this, remember when it first came out, the 100 scientists who said it's a threat to humanity and all of these things. The train's left the station. This thing's is already on its path. You could, as Lee Iacocca says, lead, follow, or get out of the way. And so I think, Mitchell, your advice is dead on. Go skill up, upskill yourself on AI, because you know what? When I went to school, they didn't have any web designers. Just saying. And I don't think we're going to have web designers necessarily going forward. I think AI will design your web. But for a brief moment in time, it was a hot little job.
But let's look down the road a little bit. And if New York State wakes up one morning and finds that the unemployment rate is off the charts and they're having to pay all these folks benefits, they're going to come back to the tech companies and say, what did you do here? And how much are you going to kick in to help fund this?
Well, keep in mind, those numbers are self-reported by how many jobs are laid off. So are you going to be over or under of reporting that as a company?
So imagine that there's to take this a little bit differently. And so imagine that there is a 70, 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds don't have a lot of contact with their family, don't have a lot of reasons to get up in the morning, don't have a lot of ways to communicate, fairly isolated from the world. Imagine there's 19-year-olds who are stuck in college right now, highest suicide rate in the United States, 19-year-olds. And imagine that there's organizations that produce the ability for adoption of things that we don't fully understand yet. Your personal confidant, your personal collaborator that is an AI interaction that lives on a device in your home with you, right? The commercial adoption of this isn't, what's going to lead to the adoption of the industry. Those people have already proven that you're welcome to save about 45 to 50% of people that have had this experience from committing suicide. And so some other things to think about here are, hey, look, the adoption isn't the fear of AI. It's the fear of humanity. It's the fear of establishing a new, leadership and control over society that no one has a input into. But when you look at some of the abilities and the things that are brought to light here, it's not, aside from not being doom and gloom, there's an example of a trade craft here that hasn't been built yet. So your personal, you don't need a psychiatrist with, 20 years of such and such. You have the ability to have somebody that knows you in the context of all your conversations to interact with you almost like a friend. That's a job that doesn't exist today. And those are the types of opportunities that are available. But, to Lisa's point, and Shimmy, you too, these aren't clearly illustrated yet because they don't exist yet. And I'm not sure we spent enough time thinking about that translation of the turn down the economy, people doing something about layoffs for AI and what these new opportunities might be.
Yep. I mean, look what Chris Blask is doing with his Lumina partner, as he calls her. I don't know if her's the right word, the right pronoun, but anyway, it's pretty cool stuff, and I think we're going to see more of that. We'll see more of it. Anyway, certainly a lot going on, and I'm sure we're going to discuss this again. But for now, let's take a quick break here on The Gang, and we're going to come back and AWS's big cyber show, security show, Reinforce, not Reinvent, was this week. Mitch, I think you were on the scene, and let's talk some security.